Well, John, once again, this is Nye McGee with EURweb.com. Thank you for giving me your time today to speak about this award-winning four-part docuseries, Who's Behind Black Art? And you are profiling the lives of five emerging Black contemporary artists. So what initially inspired you to create this series?
Absolutely. So, first of all, Nye, thank you for having me. I appreciate that very much. I want to say that back in the 90s, when I was born and raised in London, and Europe was the go-to for all Black British people in terms of like entertainment of what's going on, who's doing what, films and everything. That was my go-to. So, this is a very
Wow.
exciting
Well, that's
opportunity.
wonderful to hear.
Of
The
course, you
boss
guys are
man, Lee
global.
Bailey, will be excited to hear that.
No, I'm serious. Global, big time. It was the place to go. So, for me, this conversation about emerging Black artists was really important because we're often talking about these famous artists and their journeys and things of that nature, but no one gets to see them when they were young, right? When they were just emerging and really finding their way from education to finding collectors and really getting out there. And I was introduced to this whole world through Philip Michael Collins, who was the founder of Good Black Art. And he invited me to an exhibit in his home of all of these emerging artists. I said, this is the documentary to make. Who's talking about these people from now? Because the history should be that we have some things capturing them from a young age and really talking about their inspirational journey from them. So that's really kind of what highlighted the intention. Now, these artists are very candid. They tell you, I didn't even know what a portfolio was. I couldn't get into college. I couldn't afford it. I had to drop out, or this or that happened. So they really kind of give you the real. And part of that for me was to also engage an audience with not feeling so distant from artists, right? Because I feel people feel intimidated sometimes when it comes to art. How much does it cost? How do I do this, that, and the other? But they give you such a real connection that it makes you now think about, well, maybe I could buy something from an emerging artist. It's not as expensive. It certainly allows me to, be a lot closer to the work and, to understanding their journey. So that's really kind of what started this entire thing. I just really wanted to start sharing conversations about Black emerging artists.
What impact do you hope these conversations, when people start to, folks who haven't seen this docu-series yet and they'll watch it for the first time after watching our interview, what impact do you hope these conversations will have on viewers?
I want those who are aspiring creatives to be inspired, right? I want them to be able to look at this and say, you know what? If he or she or they could go through something and are still doing it, maybe I can actually get the courage to do that thing that I wanted to do. I also want people to think about, we go to amusement parks, we go to concerts and so many other places. Maybe go to a gallery, maybe go to a museum and see what some of these Black artists are doing, because it's phenomenal when you actually get to be in front of a piece by someone who looks like you. I think that that's another important factor. So I love the idea of people kind of creating their own ideas as well on what can I do? Maybe I'll follow them on Instagram. Maybe I'll just kind of see where they're going to be. If it's something near me, I can go. I want people to just remain inspired so that we can achieve and do more and also be supportive and part of the community.
Now, how did you approach, obviously this docu-series features a mix of artists, experts, and celebrities who all play a unique roles within this like art ecosystem, right? So how did you approach choosing the voices and perspectives featured in this docu-series?
So that's a great question because the first thing for me was I need real conversations. I'm not trying to have someone who's trying to dust off anything. I just need you to tell me exactly how it is. And so as I was interviewing artists, actually all the way from Nigeria to Portugal to Brazil to Scotland, London, there were so many countries, but these five artists were so real with me that I said, listen, I know this is North America heavy, but I'm looking for the conversations that people can relate to. So that really became the process. But it started with Good Black Art inviting me to meet these people. And then when it came to the special guests, we really were thinking about how can we have a diverse conversation. Let's get one or two people like Everett Taylor, who is now the CEO of Kickstarter, but he was the chief marketing officer at Artsy, which is the largest art sales company in the world. And so he was a valuable voice, and so was Larry Osei Mensah, who is the co-founder of Art Noir. And then we had Dr. Joy Simmons, who is a notable national art collector of Black art. And so having people like that allowed us to have a broader conversation. We really were thinking about how do we make sure that we cover all of the areas so that when we're talking about things, we have the support to really bring a tangible conversation. So in regards to these 5 artists, I think it's more about we all culturally can get more engaged. We can all support emerging. There's some great artists like Derek Adams, who happens to be in this documentary. You've got Kehinde Wiley, you've got Amy Sherrill. There's so many great artists, but it's understanding, supporting the journey of the emerging, because there are so many of them. And the reality is they need support. They need support, and they may not have the resources or the tools or the money to be out there, and they may not have representation. So how can we begin? And I think you know this. If you follow one person on Instagram, it's going to introduce you to some other people in that sphere, right? So in the art ecosystem, it's going to start introducing you to some other artists that are also emerging. And I think that's just a simple, great way of expanding our knowledge and building a community of support for emerging artists. That's a real big part of my hope and intention with these 5 artists in particular.
There's this moment where one of the artists note that white guilt kind of opened up Black artistry, like Black artists' opportunities, I should say, in the art world, which I found that very surprising. So, did you learn anything surprising, or maybe that was surprising for you? Did you learn anything about the Black artist experience in this white art world while you were putting this project together?
I can tell you, we were filming at the ending of COVID, right? But we were also in a space where we had just experienced the George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery. And you can tell that there were some things going on because these artists literally were out of work. They didn't have anything in their studios, right? And it was because a huge influx of white collectors and galleries and curators were finding, and these were the commissions: go and get Black artists. Let's see what's going on in this space. I'm glad that that happened, right? I will say to you, it has died down, okay? Things are not where they were even 2 years ago. And anyone that is in the art ecosystem, whether they're an art advisor, a curator, they will tell you that there have been changes. Everyone was running to them in 2000, 2001, right? Now it's kind of where things were a little bit before that. So hence the reason why I feel that this documentary on Comcast Black Experience and Xfinity is timely to really emphasizing, reminding us of what is, out there and how we can celebrate and support these community of artists. So I wanted to do something, and this was my something. Black Experience on Xfinity also saw that vision, and they did something, right? And we're now on that platform, which hopefully broadens this conversation, right? But I think individually, we have to be mindful about what we say to our children, to the kids in the neighborhood. They watch us, they see us. And we have an obligation, right, to really make sure that we're supporting education about what's happening even in this space. And our responsibility is, as I was saying before, that we go to museums. If there is someone that's having an exhibit, maybe I can go. Maybe I can't go, but I can tell some other people about it. We've got to maintain lifting up these emerging artists and understanding that support is needed. It's not just some kind of thing, it is a necessity because we have to maintain a certain level of position in our communities as opposed to leaving it to someone else or thinking someone else may do it. We can actually make an impact just by doing one thing, and that could be following someone. So it begins there, and then we can see where else we can go and see how far your intentions or your commitments to it can go.
Who's Behind Black Art was awarded Best Series Web at the Toronto International Nollywood Film Festival this year. So, what does this recognition mean to you, and how do you feel it reflects the significance of this series within the art and media landscapes?
Ooh, what a good question. So, this is a Canadian Screen Award film festival, and it was one of the ones I really was hoping to get into. So we were honored just to have an official selection. And I remember sitting down when the 13th category came up, and I said, "Oh, 13th, maybe not so unlucky." And I didn't even know what the category was going to be, and it came up to be Best Docu-Series. And I'm sitting next to another friend of mine who said, "You won." And I said, "No way." And so it was an honor because for me, you do this work and you hope that it reaches people, not necessarily always about the numbers, but to the heart and the minds of people. And so I was really, really honored that we were certainly given this award. And for me, that offers a greater expansion of conversation because this is the Nollywood Film Festival. And for those who don't know, Nollywood is the Africa example of a Toronto International Film Festival. And they really have an expansion that is global for people of color. And they do quite a good job with this film festival. So I feel like it's a great honor, but I feel like it gives me more motivation for what else and what's next and how much more we can do and achieve.
So one of the highlights in the series is the exhibit at the World Trade Center, right? So how did the experience of curating and showcasing these artists' work in such an iconic location enhance the message you want to convey through this docuseries?
Another good question. So Phil Collins from Good Black Art, I said to him, I really want to end this documentary with an exhibit of these artists' work. I said, if we're seeing their journey, we want to see the celebration of their work at the very end, because that's a big part of why we're speaking to these people. He was able to go to the World Trade Center and get a secured local space where we were able to showcase all of this work. And we had a great crowd of people that came out to the opening. And I think the exhibit was up for 6 to 8 weeks. And it did really well. I can tell you, even before we opened, half of the pieces were already purchased, which was great, right? And that's what you want. You really want to make sure that those collectors and art advisors can come in and say, "Oh, I know someone that would love this." So I feel like it really was an important part of this documentary to really have them excited about seeing their work and having people see their work and being in the space at the same time. So I was really honored and happy about that.
What are you
Yes.
most excited about viewers experiencing when they watch, when they tune into Who's Behind Black Art for the first time?
Well, first of all, I'm most excited about people going to Black Experience on Xfinity because people need to know that is the destination if you're really trying to see what's going on. And if you don't have Xfinity, you can also go on Xumo Play, which is XUMO Play, and it's free. It's a downloadable free app that you can watch it directly for free. And honestly, I feel that when people start learning a bit more about what's happening there, that will be the celebration that there is another avenue for us to be, seeing ourselves and seeing our works in other movies and other documentaries. But don't forget to see who's behind Black Art.